The sheets were still warm. My thighs still tingled. And the bed still smelled like him. I could not breathe. I could not move. I laid there naked, tangled in the same sheets my husband and I once made love in, sheets that now carried the sweat, breath, and skin of another man. Eli was gone. Slipped out through the back door before the sun peeked over the neighbor's fence. But his scent lingered: cedar, leather, and sin. Jason would be home in 6 hours. And I had just committed a betrayal so raw, so final, that not even God could rewind time and pull me from that bed. I had no tears. Only silence. And the echo of Eli's voice in my ear: "You needed this, Rachel. Just admit it." He was right. And that was the part that scared me the most. A special thank you to every one of you tuning into this story. Whether you are already subscribed or just stumbled upon this, I appreciate you deeply. If you are new or returning and have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that button. It is the fuel that keeps this channel alive and growing. Please remember to like, comment, and share your thoughts below after this chapter. Now, let me take you into my story, the part of my life I never planned to confess. But I owe it to you to be honest. All the way. Story begins. My name is Rachel Whitman. I am 36 years old, married for 11 years, and I live in a quiet, neatly trimmed suburb just outside Dallas, Texas. We have white fences, perfectly parked SUVs, and neighbors who wave but never ask the real questions. I used to love Jason deeply. When we met, he was everything I wanted: a man who made plans, kept promises, and never raised his voice. He gave me safety, security, a beautiful home. But after a while, his steady rhythm turned into silence. Our love dulled into routine. Our kisses became forehead pecks, and our sex turned into calendar appointments. I begged for more passion, more time, more of him. But all he gave me was space. Then came Eli. I met him at the gym. I had started going after work, mostly to escape the house before Jason came home and turned on the news like clockwork. Eli was one of the trainers there. Hispanic, built like a storm, tall, with a square jaw, tattoos that peeked from his sleeves, and eyes that felt like they could read your sins. He was different. Raw, unfiltered, and dangerously observant. The first time he approached me, I was on the treadmill, drenched in sweat, headphones in. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You run like you are chasing something you lost." I laughed. But I should have known better. He started training me privately 2 weeks later. Our sessions became longer. Our conversations deeper. He started asking questions Jason never did: how I slept, what music I liked, when was the last time I felt desired. It did not take long before I cracked. One night, I stayed late after my session. The gym was closing. The lights were low. He offered me a protein shake. I took his lips instead. That kiss broke everything I thought I was. It was hungry. It was wrong. And it tasted like the life I had buried years ago. That night, I did not drive home. I let him drive me to his apartment. He made love to me like a man who had been waiting years. Slow. Deep. Watching me like I was something to be unwrapped, not just touched. I had never moaned like that in my life. My body shook under him. For the first time in a decade, I felt like a woman, not a wife, not a homeowner, not a planner, just a woman. When it was over, I cried. Not out of guilt, but because I knew I would go back. And I did. Again. And again. Until last night, when I crossed the line I told myself I never would. I brought him into my home. Jason had flown to Miami for a tech conference. 3 days away. I planned dinner, wine, soft lights. I told Eli to come through the side gate. I lit candles. I wore silk. We did not make it past the hallway. He lifted me against the wall like I weighed nothing. His mouth on my neck. His hands everywhere. The house moaned with us. My wedding ring scratched against his back as I pulled him deeper. We took it to the bedroom. My bedroom. My marriage bed. And I knew in that moment I could never unsee this. I could never undo it. He stayed the night. I slept with my head on his chest. I felt his heartbeat like it was my own. I felt alive. But now it was morning. And the silence was loud. I looked at the clock. Jason's flight would land at noon. He would be home by 1. I pulled off the sheets. I grabbed the candle. I opened the windows. I scrubbed the sheets. I washed my body 3 times. But the scent was still there. Not just in the room, but in me. I sat on the edge of the bed, naked, empty, and terrified. Then I heard the sound that made my heart stop. Jason's keys at the door. He came back early. I heard the sound of the key twisting before I could pull on pants. I froze. My heartbeat exploded in my chest. The sheets were still damp in the washer. The wine glasses were still in the sink. My body still smelled like Eli. No amount of soap could change that. The front door creaked open. I could hear Jason's suitcase wheels scraping against the tile floor. I threw on a robe and ran a towel through my hair, trying to look freshly showered instead of freshly ruined. I sprayed some lavender mist and sat on the edge of the couch like I had just been reading. He walked in with that tired, oblivious smile of his. "Hey babe," he said. Surprise. The conference wrapped early. Flights opened up. He bent down to kiss my forehead. I flinched. Jason pulled back a little, confused. "You okay?" I nodded. Too fast. That was the beginning of the unraveling. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in a glass house. Every noise made me jump. Every question from Jason felt loaded. Every call from Eli made my stomach twist. Eli was texting more. He wanted to see me again. I told him it was risky. He said, "Risky things are usually worth it." Jason, on the other hand, seemed closer. As if he felt me slipping, even if he could not explain why. He started asking me about my day again. He offered to cook. He even mentioned taking a weekend trip to Napa, something he had not said in years. Maybe the sex woke something in him too. Or maybe it was guilt that sharpened my attention to the changes around me. I could not tell anymore. But my body was restless. And it did not belong to Jason anymore. It belonged to the man who made me feel like every inch of me mattered. The one who looked at my flaws and licked them instead of ignoring them. The one who made me feel like I was not fading. Not invisible. That man was Eli. We met again the next Friday. I told Jason I had a late client consultation out in Frisco. I wore a blazer over nothing. I put on lipstick I never wore for Jason anymore. I even shaved above the knee, something I had not done in months. Eli opened the door shirtless. He smiled like he already owned me. He did. This time, there was no slow. No talking. Just raw need. He grabbed my face, kissed me so hard I bit my lip, and pulled me into the living room. I did not ask questions when he threw my blazer to the floor. I just closed my eyes and let the guilt dissolve beneath his mouth. The couch groaned. My moans filled the air. There was nothing gentle about it. It was possession. Afterward, I laid on his chest again, eyes closed, heart pounding. "Why are you still with him?" Eli asked. I opened my eyes slowly. Because I have a life with him. A house. A history. A reputation. He looked at me differently that time. Like he was weighing something behind his eyes. "I could give you something new," he said. I stayed quiet. Because the scariest part of all this was that he probably could. At home, I walked into the kitchen and found Jason doing the dishes. "You okay?" he asked, drying his hands. I swallowed. "Yeah, just tired. Long day." He nodded. "You smell different." My heart stopped. "What?" He looked at me calmly. "Your perfume. It is different. I like it." I exhaled. Too sharp. Too loud. He noticed, but said nothing. I was slipping. My lies were getting lazy. The next day, Nina called. My best friend. My voice of reason. She had been trying to get me to open up for weeks. We met at a cafe downtown. She sat across from me and folded her arms. "You are glowing," she said. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your skin. Your smile. Your hair looks like it has been touched." I laughed nervously. "You are overthinking." "No, you are underconfessing." I sipped my iced latte, hoping it would cool the fire inside me. She leaned in. "Rachel, are you cheating?" I dropped my spoon. It clattered too loud. "Jesus, Nina. Answer the question." I stared at the ice melting in my cup. "Yes," I said. She sat back stunned. With who? I told her. Everything. From the gym. To the hallway. To the bed. She just stared. Then she whispered, "Girl, what are you doing?" I do not know. That was the truth. I was falling. Fast. Without a parachute. Later that week, Eli started pressing harder. He wanted more than sex. He wanted time. He wanted weekends. He wanted to be seen with me. I told him no. And that was when something changed in him. He started pulling back. He would go hours without replying to texts. He would cancel sessions. His tone got colder. I did not realize how addicted I had become until he started withdrawing. I started panicking. Jason tried to cuddle me that night. I pulled away. He asked what was wrong. I told him it was hormones. Another lie. It kept piling. Then, one night, I decided to show up to the gym unannounced. I walked in and found Eli with another woman. Young. Fit. Pretty. Laughing at something he whispered in her ear. My heart shattered. I walked out before he could see me. I drove straight home and cried until I could not feel my face. My body had known Eli. Needed him. But now my heart was catching up. And it hurt like hell. The next day, Jason came home early from work. He held up a printed receipt. "What is this?" I blinked. "It is from that consultation in Frisco. You paid for a hotel. Not a client meeting." My chest caved in. "I can explain," I whispered. "Please do," he said. "Because I am out of guesses." I stared at him. And for the first time since it started, I realized the real betrayal was not just in what I did, but in how far I had let it go. Jason stood there holding the receipt like it was a knife. And maybe it was because it cut through every lie I had told. He did not yell. He did not move. He just stood there with that kind of silence that feels louder than any scream. His eyes, they looked dead. And I realized in that moment, my betrayal had not just wounded my marriage, it had murdered something in him. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my legs shaking. I could not speak. I had spent weeks preparing for this moment in my head, but now that it was here, I had nothing. No words. No strength. Just a guilty body in a robe that still smelled faintly like someone else's cologne. "Rachel," Jason said quietly, "how long has it been going on?" I opened my mouth, but the words stuck. I looked up at him, and for the first time in years, I actually saw him, not just as my husband, but as a man who loved me. A man I had taken for granted. "Since the end of March," I whispered. He blinked. "That was 3 months ago." 3 months, he repeated under his breath, like he was doing the math on everything we did during that time, every meal we shared, every night we slept in the same bed, every time I kissed him goodbye with another man still fresh in my system. He shook his head and walked into the kitchen. I heard the sound of a glass breaking. Then silence again. I wanted to go after him. I wanted to say something, anything, that might put the pieces back together. But the truth is, some things do not get fixed. Some things are shattered for a reason. The next day, Jason left. No yelling. No begging. No dramatic scene. Just a single bag and a note on the counter. "You chose him. Now choose what you are going to do with that choice." That line carved itself into my chest. I called Eli. No answer. I texted him. No reply. That night, I drove to the gym, heart pounding. I waited outside in the dark parking lot like a fool. When he finally walked out, he was with her again, the same girl from the other night. They were laughing. Flirting. He touched her lower back like he used to touch mine. I stepped into the light. He saw me. His face dropped. He whispered something to her and walked over. "Rachel," he said. "Who is she?" He shrugged. "Someone new." My throat dried up. "So, that is it?" I asked. "You are done with me?" He looked at me like I was the one who never understood the game. "You said you were not going to leave your husband." So, I moved on. "You said you wanted me," I whispered. "I wanted the version of you who had nothing to lose. Not the one who came with drama and guilt." And just like that, he turned and walked away. I stood there frozen. Not heartbroken. Not furious. Just hollow. I had ruined my marriage for a man who never wanted to carry my heart, only devour my body. A week passed. The silence in the house grew louder. Jason had not called. Not even to ask about the mortgage. I guess he needed space to decide what kind of man he wanted to be after this. And me? I stared at mirrors a lot. One morning, I looked at myself naked, really looked. At the bruises Eli left on my thighs. At the red marks Jason used to kiss. At the woman who once craved love but settled for lust. I cried. Not for them. But for me. For the woman I used to be before she stopped recognizing herself. I called Nina. She came over without asking questions. She just brought wine, tissues, and her old college hoodie. You did this to yourself, she said gently. I know. But you're not the first. And you will not be the last. I loved Eli, I whispered. No, you wanted Eli. There is a difference. 2 months passed. Jason never came home. We filed for separation. The silence between us became legal. We spoke through email. Eli disappeared. Left the gym. No one knew where he went. No goodbye. No closure. And me? I went back to the beginning. I repainted the bedroom. I bought new sheets. Burned the old ones. But no matter how much I scrubbed or rearranged, the bed still smelled like him. Not Eli. Jason. That familiar scent, laundry detergent, peppermint, the faint trace of his skin on the pillow, it clung to the edges of my world like a memory I could not bleach away. And every night, when I laid alone, I wondered if I had really been searching for passion, or if I had just been running from the woman I had become. I cheated. I lost the man who would have built a life beside me. I chased a man who only ever wanted to explore my body, not protect my soul. And now I live in the house I once called a home, with new paint, clean sheets, and a bed that still smells like the man I broke. I cannot take it back. I cannot rewind. But I can tell the truth. Because sometimes, the only way to heal is to finally let the mirror speak back.